What should the Dallas Mavericks do now that they have the number 1 overall pick? Their roster is built to win and win now. I do not see this as a young core that can continue into the future. Kyrie Irving coming off a torn ACL, Anthony Davis with how many games he's missed in his career. It seems to me that this team is built to win now, but I do not think you can ask that of a rookie franchise piece in Cooper Flagg. Could the Mavericks move on from Anthony Davis? Absolutely, but will they? I seriously doubt it. You just traded for Anthony Davis and you traded for Luka Doncic. That's the price tag for Anthony Davis, a Luka Doncic type deal. I just don't see that in the NBA anywhere. No one's willing to give up a young centerpiece for a franchise for Anthony Davis. Now, also talking about Kyrie Irving, I don't think there's any trade value there either. There's not a team that's contending that's going to need a score-first point guard coming off of a torn ACL in his mid-30s. So, with that being said, the Mavericks, yes, they have their franchise centerpiece in Cooper Flagg, but there are a ton of question marks on where this team is going to go into the future. It seems now that you have to start building around your young star, and I don't think that you do that with two guys that have an extensive injury history in Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving. Now, how do you get rid of those guys? I'm not necessarily sure. I don't know what teams would be willing to trade for them, but I do think you need to trade them away because the pressure for the Mavericks to win now, especially with trading Luka, it's through the roof. You have now a core, a big three of Kyrie, Cooper Flagg, and AD. There's going to be a lot of Mavericks fans out here caping for the Mavericks to push for a title. I don't disagree with that sentiment, especially because you lose the hometown kid, the guy that everybody loved in Luka, and the promise was for a championship. So with that being said, you've got like an angel and a devil on your shoulder. You know, if you're Nico Harrison, who, what a bailout, by the way, for the NBA and for him getting the number 1 overall pick. But back to what he's faced with now. You promised the city a championship or championship contention, but on the other hand, you're putting a lot of pressure on a 19-year-old kid who did not do well closing games out with Duke. I believe he was 0 of 7 from the field, as well as a couple of turnovers in the last minute and a half of games that were within 1 score. So, with that being said, I don't think you put Cooper Flagg in that position. It's just not a great one to be in as a rookie, to try to come in, not only be the franchise savior that is replacing one of the top 10 players in the league, but also to continue that pressure by asking him to go compete for a championship. Yes, he's a big time player. He went and practiced with Team USA last year. He's used to playing adult grown men basketball, but it's just a different level when you get to the NBA. You can ask that of almost anybody. And so I think the Mavericks would be doing a disservice to his young career to ask him to try to compete for a championship. I think that you could get some value from Anthony Davis, maybe trading him with a package, maybe even a dual package of Kyrie and Anthony Davis, going somewhere for a young star or two. I would love to see maybe the Pelicans trade for Anthony Davis, bring him back to the city of New Orleans. I think overall the city of New Orleans loves Anthony Davis. They are a little hurt that he ended up demanding a trade to go to the Lakers, but if he were to come back to try to help this Pelicans team, which is in absolute shambles, come back to relevancy, that would be amazing. Maybe a package of Zion and some picks for Anthony Davis and Kyrie. Now that sounds insane, but Zion Williamson is far more injury prone than Anthony Davis and Kyrie combined, and I think that's unreal to think about. But overall, this Mavericks team needs to get much, much younger. It's not a team that can compete for a championship, even with Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving to me. I look at other teams in the West, like the Houston Rockets, a skyrocketing team right now. They've much improved over the last 3 seasons, especially with Ime Udoka at the coach. The Oklahoma City Thunder, they're also a young team that is going to continue to ascend. I think they're kind of on par with where the Denver Nuggets are right now, which is around a 4th or 5th seed, but not a team that can push deep into the playoffs due to a lack of depth. That's where the Mavericks are, in my opinion. They traded away kind of all their depth. They had Jalen Brunson. They let him go to the Knicks. They had Quentin Grimes. He went to the 76ers. And of course, Luka and Maxi Kleber. People forget that Maxi Kleber had some great playoff series and regular season performances for the Mavericks, and he's gone. So where does this Mavericks team go with Jason Kidd at the helm? It's got to be centering around Cooper Flagg. That's what I think. Trying to put too much pressure on this kid is not going to pan out well. But let me know what you think in the comments. Obviously, one of the greatest bailouts in NBA history. Cooper Flagg is going to be one of the great players in this league, I believe. But thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.